Hey, my name is Arije. I'm a dyslexic in the field of education studies, and on this channel I share information about dyslexia from an insider perspective. Today I would like to talk about the importance of diagnosing. And in order to do so, I would like to take you back with me about 20 years ago. Back then I was still living on a little farm in Holland, and with all kinds of animals. It was really a little idyllic place to be. And one morning, my mom sent me off to get some eggs, and I went into the pen where the chickens, the geese, and the peacocks were. And I noticed that something was off. And actually, one of the peacocks was missing. We started looking for it, couldn't find it, until the neighbor called us and said, okay, there's a peacock in my garden, pick it up. So we did. And back home, my dad decided to, prevent that from happening, and he made a little wooden block, attached a string to it and a little leather strap. He tied it around the foot of the peacock so it wasn't able to fly anymore. And it was on there for a while, and then we got pity with the bird, so we decided to take it off. And then something interesting happened, because that bird actually never flew again. You might wonder, what have peacocks and dyslexics in common? Well, this story symbolizes a concept called learned helplessness.
So how do we create something like learned helplessness? Well, one main ingredient is repeated failure. And the bird, for example, was trying to fly, but every time he was disappointed again because it's just not working with that block. And the dyslexic in school is trying to learn to read and write, but especially if he or she is not diagnosed and we don't treat them according to their differences, it's just gonna end up also being a lot of failure. And the tragic part about this is that we set them up unknowingly, but we do. And again, for the bird, it's easy to see why, because of that block. Of course, it's not gonna work. And for the dyslexic, it has to do with our expectation.
So what is wrong with our expectation? Well, imagine you're building a house. The last thing that you would forget to include is a foundation. The equivalent to a foundation for dyslexic would be phonemic awareness, the ability to differentiate between sounds and also the ability to manipulate it within language. With this foundation, you will be able to develop the skills associated with reading and writing. But the dyslexic develops this phonemic awareness later, a little bit later in life, and that causes us to build a building without a proper foundation, and it starts to crack and starts to be unstable. So the block that my dad put on the peacock's foot are society's expectations for children that really drag dyslexics down, because their phonemic awareness develops a little later. But if we diagnose, we start recognizing that these kids are different and therefore also need to be treated differently. And we might be able to avoid repeated failure and teaching helplessness. So if this resonated with you, leave a comment below, and catch you in the next one.